CBN warns banks against misleading customers on domiciliary accounts. Senate probes banks over withholding tax remittances. Global revenue loss projected at $29 billion as coronavirus persists, just as stocks continue to fall. This is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Ben Adams, your guide. Good to have you join us on this midweek edition of the program. Socioeconomic activities along Lagos-Ibadan Expressway have been disrupted since the early hours of Wednesday, February 26, as commuters had to face heavy traffic along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. A petrol tanker explosion that occurred Tuesday night, February 25th, along the long bridge between Lagos and Ogun State caused the massive traffic lockdown for commuters who ply that expressway. Meanwhile, the coronavirus has continued to take toll on businesses, and the International Air Transport Association, IATA, has projected a global revenue loss of $29.3 million due to the outbreak of the virus. IATA made the announcement after its initial assessment of the impact of the coronavirus 2019 outbreak on the global aviation industry. The association said the impact would amount to 5% lower percentage revenues compared to its forecast in December, adding that it would represent a 4.7% hit to global demand. The association, however, said the projected loss would more than eliminate expected growth this year, resulting in a 0.6% global contraction in passenger demand for 2020. The Senate has continued with its intervention in ensuring that all revenues due to the federal government are duly remitted into the Federation account promptly. This time, the legislators are calling for the digitization and automation of collection and remittance of withholding tax as a way of checking fraud in the system. The Senate on Tuesday mandated its Committee on Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions to investigate allegations of non-remittance of withholding taxes collected by banks to state governments.
Federal government's drive and quest for increased and enhanced internally generated revenue at all levels of government.
Let's employ technology to make sure that every kobo that is supposed to go to the coffers of government goes into the coffers of government.
To investigate this matter and ensure that all withholding tax revenues on both bank deposits and dividends are recovered and report back to the Senate in 4 weeks.
The Senate asked the committee to conclude its investigation within 4 weeks and report back to the Senate. In another development, the Central Bank of Nigeria has cautioned deposit money banks against misleading their customers on transactions carried out through domiciliary accounts in the country. The Apex Bank, in a letter posted on its website, signed by the Director, Trade and Exchange Department, Ozome Naji says all ordinary domiciliary account holders can utilize cash deposits not exceeding $10,000 or its equivalent by telegraphic transfers to fund eligible transactions. The letter says all deposit money banks must desist from misguiding their customers. The CBN had on Sunday said it had not prohibited the acceptance of foreign currency cash deposits by deposit money banks. Experts say grain prices are expected to remain low as Chinese demand slows. How are prices of grains and other commodities? Data released this week shows Nigeria's gross domestic product (GDP) improved to 2.55% year-on-year in real terms in the fourth quarter of 2019. The strong growth represents the highest quarterly growth since the 2016 recession. It was driven by growth in the non-oil sector, which accounted for 92.68% of GDP. Information and communication, agriculture, and the financial industries were the top three drivers of the non-oil sector. We are joined by an economist, Dr. Tunde Bakare of the National Open University, to examine what the numbers translate to and how they would be shaping the year 2020. You're welcome to Business Express.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm sure you've seen the figures, you're familiar with the figures. Well, Nigeria's GDP surpassed forecast with a large proportion accounted for by the non-oil sector. What are your thoughts on this, and did it come as a surprise? And how can we be able to sustain these figures?
Well, it wasn't surprising at all, given the government's diversification policy. And besides, the closure of border too also really assisted the economy. When I heard that the non-oil sector contributed 92% to the GDP growth, I knew that agricultural sector would be the foremost, followed by the service. But that does not really translate to general welfare growth in the economy. The reason for this is industry, manufacturing sector supposed to be the leading sector in every economy. And that is where prices of commodity will reduce, because what we mean by growth in the GDP is when commodity increases over the year. And increase in commodity is supposed to translate to the reduction in price. In this situation, you will see that Nigeria does not really since the reduction in prices does not really translate to reduction in prices, simply because some sectors are enjoying some kind of protection. I said the closure of border last year contributed a lot.
To a large
you will
extent.
see that some farmers are smiling home, while consumers are crying.
Particularly rice farmers.
Rice farmers. Those in agri sector and agro-allied sector are the ones that are enjoying. So the data given by the NBS is real, but sincerely speaking, it does not really translate to general well-being of the Nigerian citizen.
But if you look at it in another way, this is what has been expected. There's been over-dependence on oil. And now the non-oil sector, like you've pointed out, agriculture is playing a key role. Let's take a look at the contributions of the real GDP as it is. Agriculture is 26.09%. Industries, 20.27%. And services, 53.64%. Can we confidently say Nigeria is diversified?
Well, diversification implies, okay, when you look at historically, we can conclude that diversification is paying off. But sincerely speaking, this sector of every economy supposed to be the vocal industry. When I say vocal industry, I mean, you know, every economy could be divided into three: the primary, the secondary, and the tertiary. The tertiary is the one having 50%, which is the service sector. The real economy of every sector is the primary and the secondary. If you add these two together, it's not up to the growth enjoyed from the service sector. I know when I saw the data, I knew quite well that this particular growth will be driven by the service sector, not the real sector of the economy.
Whether real sector or service sector, everything is now technologically driven, and it seems we are coming of age. Looking at information and communication, talking about ICT, has proven to be a field with growing potentials. 13.04% is its contribution to GDP in 2019. Yeah. Let's have your thoughts on the factors at play here.
Well, the telecommunication sector since the inception been faster than even expected. You understand? What we really need, although the growth has contributed in a way, but what I'm saying that the growth is supposed to have a kind of human face. That when you see that an economy is growing, it will show on an average individual in the country. I am not saying that we are not doing well, but we need to do more so that every Nigerian will smile home.
A journey of a million miles starts with a step, and we're actually making progress from all that we are seeing. Virtually every youth has the phone, has the data to want to do one or two things. How can we utilize ICT to improve service delivery, particularly in relation to our economy?
Well, ICT has ever been an instrument for business growth. For instance, you talk about e-banking. When you say e-banking, the cashless economy that we are talking about in Nigeria was driven by ICT. And the cost of production, cost of doing business has reduced drastically, because you don't need to make the move or to travel to carry out a business. You need to make a call. And from ICT, from the use of ICT in this particular country since the inception of ICT in 1999, you will see that in 2001 rather, you will see that cost of producing, cost of doing business has really reduced. But what I'm still saying is that that's supposed to still translate to reduction in prices of goods and services. Some sectors are more developed than the other. Nigeria should wake up. Nigerian government should wake up to look at the real sector of the economy. The real sector of the economy is supposed to be developed. It is when the real sector of the economy is well developed that you can talk about economy going industrialized. And
we're achieving that gradually with smart agriculture and the other initiatives that are actually been playing out in the economy today.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to an extent. But I'm still saying that we can do better. We can do better than what we have.
Okay, how do we see Nigeria performing in the course of the year 2020 to meet the GDP projections we've had in the 2020 budget, talking about 2.93% growth?
2.93% is not out of is achievable. it is achievable given the percentage we got from the service sector and the agri sector. But
what do you suggest for the real sector that you've been advocating for?
well, the infrastructure, what we have now is deficit in infrastructure. Nigeria infrastructure level is supposed to have improved over a year, but you will see gain today and see pain tomorrow. If we can see stability in infrastructure improvements, Nigeria economy will be better. And in fact, many foreign direct investors that are willing to come to this country it will become very easy for them to make it in.
While government is looking to improve on this infrastructure, would a revamp oil sector help in all of this?
Revamping oil sector will surely help. In fact, it
To
has
increase
helped.
the revenue.
It has even helped.
And it is still helping.
You will see that in the previous regime, you see that there is always shocks here and there. Those that are doing business in oil sector takes much more from the poor masses to those shocks. This particular government has removed the shock. You understand? It's a plus on the government. Since it came in from the first what's it called? From his first from the first what do we call it? From the first section that he came in for his first year, sincerely speaking, there has been a kind of stability in the oil and gas industry, and that has really paid off for the generality of Nigerians.
Okay, looking at the infrastructure deficit which you mentioned earlier on, what are those sectors that you see that can drive to improve this infrastructure deficit?
Well, infrastructural deficits ordinarily supposed to be firstly driven by the government. Then corporate body can also assist. You understand? Corporate body could assist in terms of social corporate responsibility. But when we talk of real infrastructure, government is supposed to be the leading partner in developing infrastructure.
And you also
because at the end of the day, government gains more when infrastructure in an economy is well developed.
You are also aware that the federal government is looking for means of increasing revenue generation as well as loans to ensure that this infrastructure deficit is close to the barest minimum as it should.
Yes, at least you see the VAT of 7.5 increment, a 2.5 point increment in VAT, and then having loan to develop more infrastructure. I think in the nearest future, I have hope in the government that we'll have a better tomorrow.
And this new VAT, we're going to feel the impact very
We're
soon.
already feeling it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tunde Bakare, an economist from the National Open University. It's a pleasure having you on Business Express.
You're welcome. Good
Thank
evening.
you.
Yes.
Moving on. Rice farmers across the country have commenced loan repayment under the Anko Borrowers program of the federal government. The repayment and recovery exercise was flagged off in Jalingo, Taraba State, where farmers are already building a rice pyramid. Musa Babaliu was there.
Indications suggesting that Nigeria will be having commodity pyramids as it was in the 60s and 70s. But this time around will not be that of groundnut, but rice pyramid. And this mini rice pyramid was established by Rice Farmers Association of Taraba State, housing over 40,000 bags. Here with me is the State Secretary of Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, Taraba State Chapter.
Maman Review. This was through refund in the state. The Anko Borrower program is CB and refund MOU arrangement to give the farmers input and farm input, and then at the end of the year after harvest they will pay back with produce. to give the country sufficiency in rice production. If you give us all the enabling environment, we can feed Nigeria and even export our rice. Because out of the 16 local governments we have in Taraba, 15 local governments are all predominantly rice producing area, apart from Mambila Plateau.
Taraba has a large number of rice producers, rice farmers, but the challenge remains issue that has to do with milling. And there is hope that RIFAN, Rice Farmers Association, will be able to put one integrated or two integrated rice milling system or factory in the state.
Oil and gas firms operating in the country fled a total of 225.81 billion standard cubic feet of natural gas from January to November 2019, representing an estimated loss of 127.53 billion naira. Data obtained from National Petroleum Corporation on Tuesday showed that the volume of gas fled in the period under review fell from 260.19 billion standard cubic feet the same period in 2018. The firms, including international and indigenous operators, wasted an estimated $415.49 million or 127.53 billion naira. The NNPC, in its latest monthly report, said national gas production in November stood at 228.65 billion cubic feet. It's now time to look at the money market, where the naira remains firm. Persistent profit-taking has continued to drag down value of equities at the Nigerian bourse. Volume of trade has also been on the decline. The fall rolled into Wednesday, where the all-share index fell by 0.22% to close at 26,974.38 basis points, with market capitalization at 14 trillion naira. 228 million stocks valued at 2.7 billion naira exchanged hands in 3,831 deals at the end of the session. The banking sector was the most agile stocks, led by UBA, Zenith and Access Bank. Boa Cement PLC led the gainers, followed by UBA and Eco Core PLC, while MTN, Vitafoam and Red Star Express topped the decliners. On a mutual note, it appears there is no end in sight for decline in major stock markets as European and US equity futures slump. Bosede Ebel reports on performance of stock markets across the globe.
Coronavirus has continued to hamper on global markets as the losing streak dominates activities in early trading of 26 February 2020. European markets sustained their sell-off as the virus persists and weigh on global investor sentiment. DAX, FTSE 100 and CAC 40 were in the red. United States futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average pointed to an implied opening loss of about 100 points after trading down more than 879 points overnight. S&P 500 and Nasdaq futures also indicated a loss at the open. Shares in Asian markets recorded losses as investors withdrew amid the concerns. Shanghai Composite shed 0.83% to 2,987.93. Hang Seng Index fell 0.73% as of its final hour of trading, and the Nikkei also dropped 0.79% to 22,426.19. Africa's stocks were also highly affected. Ghana's GSA Composite, Nairobi's All-Share, Namibia's overall index, and South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 depreciated, while Tunisia's Tunidex topped 0.11%.
That's it on this edition of Business Express. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channels. You can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is @NTA News Now. The hashtag is #BizX. Business Express returns Friday. I am Benny Adams saying, keep thinking and doing business.